We're just sorting out our PowerPoint presentation. We're going to start off with Stéphanie Boissard, who's the head of research, archives and documentation at the Maison Center, and she's going to present the Nuremberg album by the Charles Alexander photographer here. Hello everybody. Our star this afternoon is this album. We received it at the US Center. It was given to us by the Lyon de Vab family in 2019. When we received it, it was slightly damaged here. It was an object that had been a family object. It had been naturally weathered because it was lived through and it was playing a significant role. It was a souvenir album. It fulfilled its role as a souvenir album. When we received it, there wasn't any dust on it, which meant that it had been handled. Kind of slightly tired in terms of the bindings here, slightly weathered. Some of the pictures had weathered. It had played its role as a live object amongst live people. This object, the first thing we did was to restore it. This is its first official presentation following the restoration. It was performed by Maud Blanc and Charlotte Gasbrac. And they dealt with the binding. This beautiful object is unique. It was in the private papers and documents of Judge Lyon de Vab, and thanks to the donation by the family, it's now at the US family. This was also, the restoration was made possible thanks to the American Consulate in Lyon here. This is a souvenir album. What's actually in it? We got pictures taken at the Nuremberg Trial, and the photographer was Charles Alexander. He was a military photographer, official military photography, and he was with the United States delegation. A lot of these pictures have been preserved here. This album has got 116 pictures, and we've got a total of 130 pictures that we can find in the Truman Library in the state of Missouri in the United States. It's called Independence. It's a university library there. The reason is because it was during the term of office of President Truman that this military photography was working, so it went back with the American delegation in those days. 116 pictures here, the format, it's quite imposing. 28 by 34 centimeters, quite thick, 8 centimeters thick, and this was a present, a gift that was given to the Judge Henri de Vab during the trial. And when you see this object, you can see inside. The pictures of the inside will be displayed on the screen, because this object, this album is very fragile, so we don't handle it too much. The inside, we're talking about 131 pictures in total, which are presented as follows. Now, what kind of pictures are we talking about? Sorry. We've got pictures that are documenting the London Agreement. The Judge Falco representing France. The signature of the London Agreement. The city of Nuremberg. Contextualization before the trial actually took place. The investigation. And we could say this was the prosecution before the actual trial here. And we're documenting pictures that relate to the judges We've got the 8 judges here that were present. And it's an album that comes to a sudden end. We see all the we see the faces of all the accused here, of the defenders here. It's an album that documents the actual preparation of the trial. A whole set of pictures that show all the pictures that were taken to really make sure that the trial could take place. You can actually see the room that was set aside, ready for the hearings here. It also documents the behind the scenes, which you can see. Sorry, not very good at that. That's the inside of the prison. A couple of pictures showing the interior and the cells, which we have seen before. And other pictures that document the catering, thanks to American delegation. Different goods were made available. And then this is really backstage as such. I don't know if you can actually see. This is a picture with a cardboard box on the left, and it says, you can actually see the stewardship. It says don't use the machine when somebody's phoning here. So that means that this pencil sharpener, this machine, was loud. So you can see, it's just to tell you that all the pictures that are present here are there to document. It's a souvenir album here before the trial, the preparation, during, pre, post and during the project, and also the defendants here. And then there's a specificity to this album. There's a page here with signatures. They are very interesting here because they clearly contextualize the object. When was it actually given to the judge Henri Donjeu de Vabre? 26th of July 1946. We've got this book signing, this dedication here. He received this during the trial. I mean, it's only in September that we actually heard the verdict here. There was the trial. They must have found some time to give this gift to the judge Henri Donjeu de Vabre. One of the signatures is Mr. Jackson, who represents the United States, and dedication by Mr. Jackson here. It says for Judge Henri Donjeu de Vabre. Here it is at the initiative of the General Attorney of the United States, and it was at his initiative that the gift was handed. You've got the signature of all the other judges from all the other delegations. An additional signature of Max Welfive, who was the prosecutor for the United Kingdom. He's the only prosecutor who signed. Was he the only one present, or was there another reason? And once you can actually see this, and you see this page, you're thinking, well, it's clear that the judge received this gift, but it possibly means that the other judges, the 3 other judges from the delegations, must have received the same gift. Difficult to imagine that only the French judge would have received such an album. Our assumption is there must be 3 other albums, at least, that must be out there here. We would like to be able to find a similar album elsewhere, like this one, as it had the dedications. It says to Mr. Professor Henri Donjeu de Vabre. We would like to find the 3 other albums that must have been handed to the 3 other judges. Since we can also see that all the judges here signed as well, we can see the alternates were there and signed it, like Judge Falco or Rudenko or the others. They must have received a sample as well. This is an assumption. We try to check this assumption out here. We tried to get in contact with American universities. Also checked amongst UK universities, and we've kind of, it's a warrant we've kind of issued. We'd like to see if there are any other editions, any other examples or samples out there. For the moment, we haven't been able to find any other copy. This is the only copy so far. However, I found a certain number of other publications, 2 publications, based on Charles Alexander's pictures here. 2 publications, 2 books were published. One very interesting here, which we discovered during our investigation, it's called Justice at Nuremberg. The pictures are the same, they're Charles Alexander's pictures. And Danke Chan wrote a text. He's a journalist and he's actually commenting the different pictures. This provided a definite interesting content. The legend was written at the time on the pictures presented, whereas in our album we're just talking about pictures without any title or legend. Something that has to be further deciphered here. It's true. This reminds us more of a kind of magazine than a book, but it's kind of a post-war conditions here. Obviously, it wasn't as easy to publish at the time. Now, this publication, we found a trace of it. We've got a copy here at the Maison Centre. Got a couple of them on sale online, but in France there's another copy available at Nanterre, at the Nanterre Centre. We found another kind of work or book, slightly different, with hard back here. In that book, the pictures have got very short legends, a different format once again. You need to specify, I do need to explain the pictures presented here, the 116 pictures in the album, can be found in the previous magazine. It's basically the same pictures, but not the same support. In this book, the pictures aren't the same at all. They are documenting the trial, but they're much less focused on the trial. It's more so focused on what the delegations visited around Nuremberg. It's more, they're more targeting the general public, if I can put it that way. And the topic, obviously, is the trial, but it was much more so what was going on all around the trial. So pictures are quite different compared to what we've got in our album. Been able to identify this particular book. There are a couple of them on sale online. There is one at the La Contemporaine at Nanterre in Greater Paris, but it's mainly in the United States in different American funds and foundations that I was able to identify different works here, different books. In particular, a copy that was signed by Parker, who was an American alternate. And he donated this, and he had different newspaper clippings here, which he added. I'd like to mention, I'd like to thank the Wilson Library, which is located in North Carolina, Chapel Hill. I had a great contact with the American universities, and they weren't aware of this document and they were very interested in it, and they really wanted to establish a link between the different documents here. So the university, the Wilson Library, they sent us photocopies of this whole book, and I was able to check the pictures that were used and to see the difference between the pictures you can see in this album and the pictures in this particular publication. And it actually was edited at the time it was published. Sorry, we can't see it. The Delaunay family apparently have similar pictures. You guys have to repeat it in the mic because well, apparently in the Bonnet, the De Bonnet Fund, which has just arrived here in the ISIO Centre, that's the last fund. That's the General Attorney of the Fennet who was at Nuremberg. We received it this summer. That was the official donation to the ISIO Centre, and this fund is going to greatly support the work we are doing. And I just found out that in this fund, apparently, we've got a copy of this book, which I just mentioned. So it's going to be very interesting to look into it, and even though thanks to the American University, we had an idea of its actual content. More than interesting. We didn't, obviously, we had a quick answer from the United States, and we're waiting for an answer from the United Kingdom and also from Russia. We still are asking for further information from anybody who may have information. We understood that the main issue, we talked about an object which is a private object. It belongs to families here. We were very fortunate to receive it from the family of the Judge Henri Dondieu de Vabre. So it's a bit more complicated than when we are talking about public funds or public material or things that are probably less emotional here. Obviously, when it's public archives, it contains